Good morning, Dr. Kavita Bhatnagar, a renowned personality. She is a mother of two kids, an IRS officer, and now an author also. Her first book, Second Chance, was recently launched. Congratulations, Kavita.
Thank you.
So, this book is all about the journey and struggles of a woman in search of companionship and happiness. So, Kavita, how are you feeling about this book?
Well, Aparna, at the moment, I think I'm just living my dream. It is a very satisfying moment for me. Very satisfying past 1 week since the book released, and it is also a feeling of amazement that I have not let go of my dream. I have not only written a book, I was able to make it reach out to people, and that is such a big step in an author's journey. So I think I'm feeling very satisfied and mighty pleased with myself. And let me, just thank you for the way you introduced myself. Not many people would say first that she is a mother of two kids. And to have that identity being told as the first identity is something really wonderful. Thank you for that.
What inspired you to write Second Chance?
Second Chance is a very simple story, as you have said and summarized it. It is a story about Ragini's quest for love and companionship. And the impetus behind the story comes from the fact that she is a divorcee, a young girl who is divorced. And this came from my observations of the changing Indian society and the changing face of relationships in our society, where divorce and remarriage is no longer a taboo. But at the same time, going through a divorce has its own pitfalls. It leaves you in a state of self doubt. There is a struggle to balance your needs and to balance the societal and parental pressure. And all these struggles together come together to make that character of Ragini. So basically, I think this changing face of our society and relationships inspired me to write this. And at the same time, I think today, since the last 6 months, we are all feeling very negative because of the COVID pandemic. There is a lot of stress in our lives. And the book gives you a message of optimism and hope. Although I started penning it when the pandemic was nowhere in sight, but still, I think one of the underlying messages of the book, which is very important, is to never give up, to always be optimistic in life. And these are some of the principles which sort of inspired me to write the book.
Very nice. Now, tell us about your previous books. You have written two more books previously.
Yes, in fact, I have been writing since I was in my school and college.
Mm-hmm.
So the school editorial magazine, any function, any event, and my friends would always come up to me and say, "Kavita, write this bit for myself." And because I enjoy writing, I think that is the key thing. That writing is my me time. So since I had a compilation of poems right from very beginning, so in 2007, I brought out my first book of Hindi poems, which is called Rishton Ki Tanhaiyan, which was published by Jan Parishad Bhopal. And that was, I would say, a first attempt in this journey. I really didn't have any idea about how to go about publishing a book and all the travels that it entails. But somehow I have seen that when you have made up your mind about something, then there is a medium which opens up to you, whether it is by God's grace or whether it is by your own goodwill, and things happen when you are determined to make them happen.
That's right.
So in 2007, this book came out. After that, again, I was writing poems, 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 and in 2012, the second book, Metro Ek Myth Krishna, got released in Jaipur. This was by a Jaipur publisher, and both the books deal with poems, very simple poems, I would say, but which essentially express the anguish of unfulfilled relationships that a woman feels. So again, it's the viewpoint is that of a woman, and the theme is focusing around relationships. So that is how my poems have come up.
Very nice. These are three books. Now we want many more to come in future.
Yes, I think having progressed from poems to novel, that I think is something I have enjoyed.
Very true. Tell us something about yourself as a mother, as an IRS officer?
Well, as an IRS officer and as a mother, I think these are two very different poles of being, but I think both are essential to my identity. And I grew up in Ajmer, and at those times, in our generation times, there were very limited career options. If you were good at studies and you excelled in academics, then you would either be a doctor or an engineer or a civil servant. Very limited options we had. And right from an early time, I think when I did my class 12 and I could top in the state in the merit list, I think I decided that I would be a civil servant. There was something inherent in that thought process because I wanted to contribute to society. And also, I think it was something in my genes because I come from a service oriented family. My grandfather, late Dr. Pashupati Narayan Verma, he was a jailer in the Ajmer jail. And my maternal grandfather, late Shri Vidyaratan Bhatnagar, he was chief engineer PWD in Rajasthan. Then my father, who passed away at an early age, late Dr. S.C. Bhatnagar, he was in the animal husbandry department. So I think I grew up in that environment where services mattered. And I could see from my elders the sense of a selfless service is so important. So I think that made me go for civil services. And then as a mother, I think for every mother, her children are priceless. But what I always believe that we do not give anything to our children, rather we learn from our children. So my two children have always stood by me, Devika and Sarthak. And what I have learned from them is to be resilient, to adapt to life, because in a very, very micro way, if I were to tell it, I have been in a transferable job. And wherever I go, the children and the family, entire family has been uprooted and they have come with me. But they have adapted it so well. This is just one of the illustrations that I'm giving. There are many other things. But that is something that I've learned from my children, to be resilient in life and not to give up.
So tell us something about your journey to become IRS officer.
Yes, as I said, that I grew up in that environment where I was inspired to join the services. And I come from a very small town, and in an age where there was no internet, no really seamless transmission of knowledge. But we grew up thinking that we'll do something good with our lives. And that motivation continues till today. So with that thought, when I cleared the civil services, I really didn't have the knowledge about how to put the correct choices. There are a lot of choices about the services you have to make, and we go about it in a very stereotyped way. IAS first, IFS, IPS, then the other allied services. But somehow there was this aura about the revenue service that I chose it over police service. So my first choice was the Indian Foreign Service. Then I put the Indian Administrative Service and then the Indian Revenue Service. And as you say, sometimes you don't choose things, things choose you. So it fell into my lap. And in 1996, I began my journey as an IRS officer. It's been 24 years. And in fact, 24 years are getting over tomorrow. And I would say, it's been a very fulfilling journey because our service is a very broad-based service. It is not limited to any one part. There is of course, the revenue collection part. Then there is the legal and the judicial nature of it, in which we go into dispute resolution. There is also a very, very technical part of it because you have to interpret the GST Act or the Customs Act and the Central Excise Act. So it is multiple avenues which the service provides. And I have been very fortunate to have been posted in this service and to have worked and contributed for 24 years in this.
Very nice. So congratulations for completing 24 years. It's a long time. Also, yes. Any memorable incident while working in Central and Excise Service Tax and Custom Department?
Yes, there have been many memorable instances, but I think the one which I always remember pertains to the enforcement part of the service. So I was in Jaipur, and I was looking after the anti-smuggling, anti-evasion, as they call it in the Central Excise days. And there were certain rules in force at that time pertaining to a particular commodity, where the production hours and the type of production you could do was all laid down in the statute. So evasion was rampant because people would try to go beyond those norms and have illegal production. And we got some information that one particular unit in a, not in Jaipur, but somewhere near Jaipur, was indulging in such type of nefarious activity. So we drew up a plan. My team was also very enthusiastic. And this illegal production was happening in wee hours of the morning and late at night. So my team devised this strategy that they disguised themselves as milk walas, the doodh walas, and they knocked on the door at 4 o'clock and said doodh le lo, doodh wale hain, and they were let inside. And immediately they revealed their identity and they became the inspector from Central Excise, and they were able to nab that person who was caught red-handed while doing that illegal production.
Wow.
So, and he was a big shot in that town. And the moment this news spread, my team was like gheraud. And this was all happening in a, I was monitoring from Jaipur and the team was in that place. And in a couple of hours, the situation had become very, very precarious. I had to take the help of police. And then we finally brought that person to Jaipur and we were able to produce him before the magistrate. And the story doesn't end here, So the law took its course. And after a few months, the person contacted me. And I was like, I really don't want to interact with a person who has been put behind bars or who has done something illegal. I don't know what is his motive. But he came and he thanked me. And he said that because of that action, his whole life has changed. Mm-hmm. And now he has become an honest businessman in some other field.
Okay.
And this is something I can never forget, that how life can take a turn from the bad to the good. This is, I think, something which has remained with me all throughout.
Very, very. It's a risky job, but satisfied job.
Yes, it has its moments of thrills.
Yeah, that's true. So recite any of your poems.
I think, they say that you should never ask a poet to recite a poem because they don't stop at one. So I will recite you two poems because one is, like, as I said, a typical expression of what I feel about relationships and the mix of optimism and negativity. Mm-hmm. But yet that is life, and that is what I have tried to say in this poem, Sangam. Mm-hmm. ओस की बूंदों सी मेरी खुशी, ओस की बूंदों सी मेरी खुशी, सुबह मिली और शाम में घुली। इंद्रधनुष के रंगों से मेरे सपने, इंद्रधनुष के रंगों से मेरे सपने कभी दिखे और फिर बादलों में छिपे। दीपक की लौ सी मेरी अभिलाषा, दीपक की लौ सी मेरी अभिलाषा अभी जली और पल में बुझी। पतझड़ में सूखे गिरते पत्ते, पतझड़ में सूखे गिरते पत्ते और बिखरता टूटता मेरा आहत मन। पगडंडी पर कदमों से पत्तों की चरमराहट और चुभन सहता मेरा आहत मन। बाग में सूखे नंगे पेड़ और भीड़ में सूना बिलखता मेरा आहत मन। हाँ, अमृत मंथन सा ये संगम, अमृत मंथन सा ये संगम ही मेरा जीवन।
वाह, बहुत बढ़िया।
और ये एक और छोटी सी कविता है जो मुझे बहुत ही पसंद है। ये मैंने अपनी बेटी के लिए लिखी थी।
अच्छा।
एंड आई विश टू शेयर इट विद यू बिकॉज आई नो आपके प्रोग्राम के थ्रू ये बहुत से यंग बच्चों के लिए पहुंचेगी। एंड इफ आई एम एबल टू इंस्पायर देम, जैसा कि आपके चैनल का नाम भी है, so then it will serve the purpose for which it was written. So पोयम का टाइटल देविका के लिए है। मेरे कदमों पर नहीं, मेरे कदमों पर नहीं, अपने पंखों पर चलना तुम। जो उड़ान मैंने भरी, जो उड़ान मैंने भरी, वो उड़ान भरना तुम। गर रात घिर आए कभी गहरी, गर रात घिर आए कभी गहरी, अपने सपनों को बना प्रहरी, सुबह का इंतजार करना तुम। कदम लड़खड़ाए भी तो इरादों को बना सके लाठी जो, उस शक्ति को याद करना तुम। शक से जो कभी हो मुठभेड़, शक से कभी जो हो मुठभेड़, सच झूठ का भेद मिटा दे जो, उस मुस्कुराहट पर भरोसा करना तुम। पाओ कभी खुद को अकेला, इन शब्दों का जारी रख सिलसिला, इस महक से संभल पाना तुम। हाँ, जो उड़ान मैं न भर सकी, वो उड़ान भरना तुम, वो उड़ान भरना तुम।
बहुत अच्छा, बहुत ही बढ़िया।
थैंक
हम
यू।
अपने सपने अपने बच्चों के लिए जीते हैं, जो सपने हमने देखे हैं और नहीं पूरे
हाँ,
होते हैं, तो वो हम चाहते हैं बच्चे पूरे करें।
हमसे भी आगे जाएं, बस यही अभिलाषा
सही
रहती है।
बात, सही बात। So, with your high profile job, how did you find time to write?
um, Now there are two things in this, I would say. First is that I enjoy writing. So when you enjoy writing, it is not a labor. It is something you do it for yourself, and then you create time for it. So whether it is on a weekend or whether it is late at night or early morning or after office hours, so I would just sit down and do it. The only thing was that being a novel, it second chance took a lot of time. It was I started it in 2015, and then I left it because I was not getting the time. I could pick it up in 2018 and 19 again. So I wrote it in two phases, and in between the poems kept coming, which is very easy to record a poem because it's something which comes to you and you just note it down. But a novel requires some research. It has to be structured, the characters have to be given a shape. So I think the after the first draft, it again took me nearly 6 7 months to give it a final shape. So it was a long drawn process, but because writing is something that is my me time, I always find time for it.
Very true. Uh, do women need to be economic independent?
Yes, of course. I mean, both you and I will stand testimony to that because being economically independent gives you a choice. It gives you a say in the matter of things. It gives you self-esteem, and it gives you that confidence that you are contributing to the family, not just in as an homemaker, but as a financial partner too. And that is so very important. In fact, if you see in the book, my book Second Chance, although I have not really gone into the career part of the main character Ragini, but she is able to divorce an abusive marriage and end it, and she is able to live her life on her terms because she has her job as a banking. So that gives you an avenue to live your life on your terms and to seek happiness on your terms. So it is very, very important. And I also think that it's not just about a high profile job or a corporate job. I think even if we look at the lower social strata, our maids, I often commend them for the way they earn their economic independence and the way they run their home and their family, keeping everything intact just because they have the financial means to do it.
Very true. So, your advice to the women who are staying at home, not working, is there any?
No, see, that is also something which comes from a social conditioning and also a decision between the two partners. So it's something that is up to the individual. But if you ask my perspective on it, I think it is good if a woman is economically independent and doing something which is building her individuality.
Very true. So, how difficult for a woman to make her choices and decisions in today's time?
In today's time, I think it is very easy because it's a generational thing. So my daughter and your daughter, perhaps as they say, they are millennials or they are the generation Z. I don't even know the nomenclature, but we have given them this freedom and this liberty to carve out their choices for themselves. So for us, the people in our generation also, the parents had started opening up, and as women, we had reasonable options to exercise our choices. But maybe for our parents and the generations before that, there was a lot of social conditioning, there was a lot of social norms. And perhaps, my mother, maybe she would have liked to be a professional working woman, but she was not allowed to exercise that choice. So I think the social progression determines the level of freedom that a woman could exercise. And we have really changed a lot in that area.
Very true. So family support is required if you are working or so, but sometimes family says you have to adjust anyhow. You have to take care of both the worlds. So then what stand one is to take in that?
Again, yes, it's a very, very interesting question, I would say, because our family is the one which gives us the values, and the values are the one which we stand by. So suppose I have been taught that I should not accept abuse in any form, but in the journey of my life I meet with a relationship which is abusive, and then I want to break free, as the character in my book Second Chance wants to do. And again, in the book, her father is the one who is opposing it, as you are saying, because he wants her to continue with the marriage. He doesn't want to face the social stigma of a divorce, and he doesn't want Ragini to think of a second marriage. But Ragini has a value system very clearly imbibed, and she's very clear in her thought process that this is what I will accept, this is what I will not accept, and I will bring my family around to my way of thinking. So, because the value system is the same, it's not as if she is going beyond the value system given by her parents or her family, but she wants to convince her parents. There is a character in the book which who is ready to marry Ragini, and he says, just let's do it. And Ragini says that no, I can't do it like this. My family has to be present. I have to be there with my family for this moment. So I think a balance between one's own choices and the family's values is very easy to form, provided you have a firm belief in the value system.
Very true. But now my next question is how you can say that second chance in someone's journey will be successful?
No, I cannot say that. I think no one can say that. But as I said, the novel is about optimism and hope. And once you find a companion, then I think even the hardships become easy to live with. And in fact, I would like to read out on this point certain lines in the novel which convey this meaning. One evening, she came across an interesting post, and I quote, looking for that second chance, which hopefully is the last one. Looking for that special someone who is as comfortable sitting beside me driving at 150 km per hour as sitting in a park. A person with whom I can talk about everything in the world, yet enjoy the silences with. Life isn't a bed of roses, but with that someone special, it needn't be a bed of thorns either. So once you find your ideal companion, I think the ups and downs which may come with the second chance or even with the first chance, they all become bearable, they all become worth it. And as that phrase goes, carpe diem. So you have to seize the moment. You have to be in the present and let the future unfold itself, and then just enjoy the life as it comes.
Show us your book. Like,
Oh, yes. Is it
very
visible?
nice.
So this is the, I think gave a lot of emphasis on designing the cover. Earlier we were doing it in a normal way, but then this color combination and this, it brings out that feeling of
Very nice.
rejuvenation,
Yeah,
which was very important.
very true. So now, what inspiration you are intending to give to the women of our country?
I think it's very important, first of all, to accept your self identity and to accept that you are as good or as bad as anyone else. You are no less. And secondly, never to accept abuse in any form, to stand up for your beliefs and for your value system, and to also believe that, let us say for divorce, it's not the end of life, it can be a new beginning. At the same time, the support of family and friends is very important, and I think today's women is very much aware of it. And we all go through life banking a bit upon such support system. So these are some of the messages that I would like to give.
So now, thank you so much, Kavita.
Thank you, Aparna, for this opportunity. And I just hope that if with my words or with my endeavors, if I'm able to touch even one life, I think it is all worth it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.